Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duckbricks. I'm Chris, and this is the Brickvault V-19 Torrent LEGO Star Wars MOC. LEGO has only ever made one of these in 2008 for the Clone Wars series, and so I figured, why not try to build one using all the modern and most up-to-date building techniques? And this is truly a sight to behold. Not only is it fully swooshable, but you can actually move all of the wings to get it into landing position, which is really cool, and I can't wait to showcase this for review. Let's jump right into it right now. Okay, so this is the V-19 Torrent from Brickvault. We only ever got one LEGO set based on this model, which was the V-19 Torrent released in 2008 for the Clone Wars series, and I purchased the instructions from Brickvault for $16 US. Now, obviously, the main function of the ship is, well, it sort of transforms to fly. First of all, you can bend the wings downwards like so to kind of give it this angular motion, and then the entire back wing, as long as you don't break it off, that is, actually does rotate all the way downwards like so, allowing you to make it fly like you can see in the Clone Wars TV show. Now this to me was a really nice rendition of the V-19 Torrent and was a really great one to build along my quest of trying to rebuild every single one of the Brickvault LEGO Star Wars MOCs, which is a pretty crazy undertaking, but I've actually already bought the instructions to all of them, so I figured, you know what, why not, and let's see where this takes us. Now this is a really fun model to swoosh around, and I'm actually really impressed by just how durable they were able to make it while still managing to pack in a ton of additional detail. You can see that it is very accurate to the source material itself, and it does actually come with instructions on parts to order to build a stand for the model itself, so you can actually display it like this. However, if you know me, you know I hang all of my LEGO models that are spaceships from the ceiling, so I figured it didn't really make sense to purchase the pieces just to go ahead and discard the stand and hang it from the ceiling. Now, much like many of the other Brickvault MOCs, this is jam-packed with some of the most insane LEGO building techniques imaginable. Every single inch of it is covered with a building technique that you definitely would never see in an official LEGO set, but honestly taught me a lot about how pieces fit together and how to really become an expert MOCist, which I by no means am a MOCist, albeit an expert one at that, but it really did help me to understand how different pieces come together, and I feel like I learn a lot every time I build a Brickvault MOC, so that's why I really want to highlight this here. Just look, for instance, at the construction of one of the wings. All sorts of different pieces going sideways, up and down, and in all sorts of different angles. It is really impressive and crazy just how much detail they managed to pack in. You see, on an official LEGO set, this would probably be a mixture of different plates, maybe this would be a sticker, but here, everything is brick built, and I am really impressed by how the designers who contribute their MOCs to Brickvault are able to make models as good as this. Unfortunately, since I did buy mostly used pieces, there is a bit of a discrepancy in the way the white is colored. That's not really a fault of the model, but since it does have so many different individual pieces, it does tend to feel like this is just made up of a ton of different components, which isn't even necessarily that bad of a thing, especially because you can kind of see this as maybe some battle damage or some wear and tear on the metal itself made for the vehicle. You can use your imagination and kind of fill in the gaps. Now, the one thing and the one big trade-off that I will have to say, as a pretty much a disclaimer for every single Brickvault MOC, is that aside from maybe a few of them like the TIE Fighters, they're all incredibly fragile. And they all have varying degrees of fragility, but this is absolutely not the kind of model that you would want to just swoosh around without fear of it breaking. I would not give this model for a kid to build or a child to build because it is way too fragile. You saw when I was just trying to move the fin up and down, things tend to break off, and really this is meant to be a collector's item and a display model. In fact, it is going to be very difficult to hang this because it is so fragile, but I will say I do actually really like the construction, and I do feel that this, out of all the other Brickvault MOCs, does a fairly good job of balancing stability as well as increasing detail. If you look at the way the cockpit is done, it is really impressively done. You've got the ratchet joints being utilized by just being attached by studs integrating into the model itself. You've got really nice different pieces being used here to allow you to have the very intricate curves and shaping of the ship itself. You've got the craft, which can be removed, so you can actually remove the windscreen and place a pilot on the inside. There is a bit of a room for a clone pilot and a chair there, which is really nice. And best of all, again, as I highlighted at the beginning of the video, this does actually have the function where you can take the back piece here, mounted on one of those mech ratchet joints, and if you're really careful with it, just bend this upwards like so, and then bend the wings upwards, and there you have it. You have it in landing position, and yes, you are torquing it a little bit. Like, it gets a little bit wobbly when you move it around, but I'm pretty impressed by how they were able to actually pull it off without the entire thing ripping itself apart. Now that it's in landing mode, you can really just take a closer look and appreciate the way that the ship is fully detailed. It almost doesn't feel like Lego, it feels like almost a model replica, or maybe like a Hasbro toy or something like that. You really have to go in depth and start to notice that there are just a few studs visible. In fact, you can probably count the number of studs visible on the model because everything is fully smooth. It's not a building style that everybody loves, but it's something that I feel is a really cool way to make this feel distinct from a regular Lego Star Wars set. This is not a standard Lego model. It is very, very advanced. There's a lot of things that you can do with it, and it really does teach you a lot in terms of building techniques. Overall, I definitely have to say I am, as usual, incredibly impressed by the designers over at Brickvault, and of course the designers who contribute their MOCs to Brickvault, for putting together such an aesthetically pleasing and detailed model. Sure, there are some pieces that do kind of come apart here and there, and definitely it is not something that you want to swish around. Like you can see, it's already coming apart here, and you really need to just squeeze that shut, and then squeeze it shut on the top here. It is packed full of the most illegal building techniques imaginable. I cannot even count the number of illegal building techniques here. It's more than the amount of studs visible. But honestly, that gives me an even better and greater appreciation of the model itself. It makes me see that so much design effort and ingenuity went into creating this model, crafting the angles, crafting the shaping, making it feel very smooth, and it is very swishable as long as you're pretty careful with it. I know I said at the beginning of the video I wouldn't recommend swishing it, but as long as you're pretty gentle, I think you can get a few good swooshes in before hanging it up or putting it on display. And as long as you're prepared to rebuild a model, in fact, that's what Lego is all about, I think that it's a really fun one to get. It's not as fragile as a lot of the other models they put out. Despite it wobbling, it actually does hold itself together fairly okay. And overall, that's pretty much all I have to say about this V-19 Torrent set. It's a really cool set of instructions, only $16 or $15 or so from Brickvault. I believe that's how much I spent on the instructions for this model, and the pieces cost me around $60 to $80. So it's one of the smaller and cheaper ones, but definitely one that does teach you a lot in terms of crazy building techniques. I'm really curious what folks in the comments think about a model like this. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea seeing a model that is built with these techniques, but personally, I'm really impressed, and I certainly cannot wait to build more Brickvault MOCs. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this review of the V-19 Torrent Starfighter. Alright, and that sums up our review of the custom V-19 Torrent Starfighter MOC. It definitely isn't one of the most stable Brickvault MOCs, but it is a really good looking one, and I certainly can't wait to put it up next to the original V-19 Torrent all the way up there. You can just see the difference in building techniques from 2008 to the custom MOC today. Thanks for enjoying this review, and let me know what other Brickvault LEGO Star Wars MOCs you want to see me cover. My goal is to cover all of them, or almost all of them, so this is a pretty ambitious goal. We'll see if I ever hit it, but I hope you enjoyed this review. Thanks so much for tuning in, and bye for now.